Hello and welcome to the HIJABI Journalist Show Edition 1. My name is NIMA and NZANI Kassim. Thank you for joining me. So today in my show, I will be handling the most frequently asked questions about Ramadan, because so many of you have been asking me a lot of questions. This time I decided to do a question and answer tag on the do's and don'ts of Ramadan. So here we go. I will be reading the questions that have been sent to me and giving them an answer according to my opinion or my perspective. I am ready to be corrected in case you feel like I've said something wrong. Please don't withhold back, because I'm only human and of course I'm not perfect in my knowledge about Islam. So, first question, what is the purpose of fasting? As I said before, fasting is an exercise of self-control. We refrain from food, from drinking, from sexual intercourse, these being the main desires that most humans face. Learning to refrain from these aspects or these desires during the holy month of Ramadan when you're fasting, because you cannot drink, you cannot eat, you cannot have sex, especially if you are not married. No, when you are not married, because married people are allowed to have sex during the night, and of course make sure they take a full bath before the beginning of the next day, in which they can continue fasting. But for people who are not married, in fact, sexual intercourse is prohibited in Islam. It's referred to as fornication, and the punishment for fornication is 100 beating, 100 using a cane for people who are not married. So, but for people who actually still have sex before marriage, you are advised to stop having sex 40 days before Ramadan if you want your fasting to be accepted. So on this aspect, during fasting, when you're fasting, you learn to refrain from all these activities that are prohibited in Islam, which means that if you can actually avoid these activities in an entire month, it will be easier for you to continue refraining from them during the other months. Another question, when should people begin fasting? Okay, according to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, children are expected to start praying at the age of 7. That's the time you are encouraged to begin praying, and it is during this time that even parents are encouraged to teach their children to fast, to start fasting. And ultimately, when they reach the age of 10, they are mostly, I repeat, mostly asked, depending on their health, of course, they are mostly encouraged to fast the entire month. So we can say from the age of 7 to 10, children should begin fasting. Another question, how sick do you have to be to skip fasting? Someone suffering from an illness where fasting will probably either cause harm or to their body. For example, people suffering from high blood pressure, people suffering from diabetes, any chronic disease that requires for you to use medication full time, for example, cancer, then you have been excused from fasting. But still, there's something you're supposed to do. You're supposed to feed. You're supposed to feed 2 people. No, you're supposed to feed a person 2 meals averagely in a day. This is like a compensation for your fasting. So yes, there are people who have been excused from fasting. Of course, we don't expect people who are very ill or people who are in the hospital to keep on fasting, because they cannot. Although something like a minor cough or a cold, you can fast, because you fasting will not affect you in any way. Should pregnant women fast, or should a breastfeeding woman fast? It depends. If in a case in which the stature of fasting will harm your child or reduce the amount of milk you provide to your child, then you have been excused from fasting. But if fasting does not harm your child or harm your child in the stomach, I mean pregnancy, or harm your child that you're feeding, then you can keep fasting. But of course, if you cannot fast, this fasting can be made up for. You can compensate for this fasting later on. Or you can feed a person 2 average meals in a day. Okay, another question. When should people begin fasting? Okay, according to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, children are expected to start praying at the age of 7. That's the time you are encouraged to teach their children to fast. How about an old person? I think an old person, it goes the same way with a person suffering from a chronic illness, because they do not have the energy to fast, especially when we're looking at the different times that people fast. In some places, people fast for around 12 to 16 hours. Okay, in most places, 12 to 16 hours. An old person, of course, does not have this kind of energy, so they have been excused from fasting, but they have to make sure they meet their compensations. Okay, can I still fast when I'm traveling? A person who is traveling is excused from fasting due to the difficulties or inconveniences that may be experienced during the journey. However, if there will be little difficulty, then it's better for you to fast, because in the end of the day, you still have to compensate for these fastings. Okay. Another question, does vomiting break my fast? I think it depends with the amount of vomiting, and was it intentional or was it unintentional? When it comes out with force and cannot be kept in, does it break the fast? This is usually a rare scenario, because some people like to vomit intentionally. You've seen scenarios where people want to vomit so that they can become slimmer. Then, of course, when you vomit in that way, you have definitely broken your fast. What is the other thing that can nullify your saum? Menstruation. But again, menstruation depends with the time in which it has taken place. Of course, if you start your periods, this applies to women during in the morning or in the afternoon, then that nullifies your saum. But if the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very merciful, and if it begins a few minutes or a few hours, I'm not quite sure about this, before the breaking time of the time you're supposed to break your fast, then the fast has been accepted. Is it okay to use eye or ear nose drops or enemas? It's permissible to use eye, ear, those drops because the liquid does not normally reach the stomach or nourish the body. Therefore, it is not analogous to food or a drink. It doesn't like feed you in any way, or it doesn't. Sorry about this, it doesn't give you any sort of energy. So of course it is permissible to use these kind of drugs in case you need them for your health. Does a medical injection break the fast? Normally a medical injection does not break the fast, although this has been a debate for a very long time, because according to some chefs, it does break the fast. According to some, it does not break the fast. But according to what I've read, it does not break the fast since it neither nourishes nor does it reach the stomach. However, injecting glucose or other nourishing substances does break the fast, because it substitutes amount of energy to your body. Okay, can I brush my teeth with toothpaste while fasting? It is permissible to brush your teeth. In fact, brushing your teeth is sunnah. So while fasting, and may even be encouraged to do so, using toothpaste does not break the fast, as long as you're very careful not to swallow it. This also happens when you're taking wudu, because sometimes you may find some water slipping in your throat, which you should make sure does not go to your throat. Can I use mouthwash? It is not recommended to use mouthwash with fasting, because it does leave a certain taste in your mouth. Okay, I just remembered something. There are some toothpaste which, of course, still leave that kind of taste in your mouth. So, of course, there's some toothpaste which you would use. Okay, however, if it is necessary to remove bad breath, that will affect people near you, because, especially during praying or when you're listening to Buddha, then it's allowed to use it. So what if I swallow small bits of food accidentally that was stuck in my teeth? Okay, swallowing food accidentally does not break the fast, even if it is a large amount. Continue fasting as usual. Can I give blood while fasting? Giving blood while fasting does not affect the fast, although it is not recommended. Okay, I think I've answered most of the questions that most of the frequent questions that have been asked, because most of you guys, especially my Christian friends, are always asking me, can you do this? Can you do this? Somebody literally asked me if you can swallow saliva during fasting. Yes, you can swallow saliva during fasting. With that said and done, thank you for joining me. In case you have any more questions, can you leave them in my comment section and probably look into it. Maybe I will do another question and answer tag before the end of Ramadan, or maybe not, but I'll definitely talk about it at some point. Thank you for joining me on the HIJABI Journalist Show Edition 1. My name is Kassim. Don't forget to tell a friend about the HIJABI Journalist Show. Keep on subscribing. And lastly, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Have an amazing day.